Hi, Mark Oswald hosting Londonderry Heart, Home and Soul. Political season. We're talking on the local level now here, folks. With me tonight is Dan Lekas with the school board, Peter Curro, finance director, and Scott Liberty, the current assistant superintendent, soon to be superintendent. Okay. Welcome, gents.
Thank you.
Dan, if we can start with you, I know you were the school board representative for the collective bargaining agreements. And you can walk us through 4 CBAs that are appearing before the voters for their ratification.
Yeah, well, first they're going to find out Article 3, which was the Londonderry Education Association, the teachers themselves, their proposed contract. They did get a raise for a contract over the course of 2 years. In fiscal year 2018, you'll see a $790,140 increase. And in the second year, you'll see a $813,560 increase. Both years, respectively, will result in 21 cents on your taxes.
And you have a percentage?
It's 2.5 each year over the course of 2 years.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Article number 4 is the allied health professionals. They have the same 2.5% increase over the course of 2 years. Their tax impact, of course, is $63,921 in the first year of that contract.
And that's the nurses, correct?
The nurses, the OTs.
Oh, yeah.
The speech pathologists, right.
Okay.
Occupational.
And $66,771 in the second year of that 2-year contract, both representing 2 cents on your tax. Probably turn page. Article number 5 is the custodians and their proposed contract. And the custodians also agreed to a 2.5% increase. They, however, are 3 years. $63,471 in year 1, $65,061 in year 2, and $66,687 in year 3. Again, all 3 years have a tax impact of 2 cents.
Okay.
And the Article 6 is the support staff and their contract. They were also a 3-year contract at a 2.5% increase. $114,779 increase in the first year, $117,649 in the second year, $120,590 in the third year. Each year has a tax impact of 3 cents.
Good. Good work.
Yeah, just a little thing. This is the first time that I can remember that all 4 of the school district collective bargaining agreements are on the warrant. There's a reason for that. We go back to the Obamacare and the Cadillac tax, and I think it's not uncommon for a lot of schools and towns who've had 2-year contracts and wait to see what the Cadillac tax was about. It was done specifically that the teachers in allied health have 2-year contracts, and the custodians and support have 3 years. So going forward, the voters won't have another round of 4 contracts in the upcoming years.
Okay.
And the teachers involved in the negotiations or in the whole process, very level-headed. They were very good to work with and very understanding with everything that they brought and we brought to their table.
Good. Good. Well, thanks for working that through. It can be a deliberative process, to say the least. Mr. Curro.
Now, Mr. Liberty will talk about the school lunch and the federal funds project.
Okay.
It's Article 8 on the ballot, Mark, and it's an interesting one and worth mentioning in specific. If you look at your ballot, when you get there, tax impact is 0. And so a lot of people wonder why that's on there. From a regulatory standpoint, we have to have the approval of the voters. We're actually accepting money. So Article 8, in Article 8, we would be agreeing to accept. It's $3,061,000 approximately dollars. We get an exact number on that when it gets a little closer. But we need the approval of the voters to actually accept those funds. They come principally in 2 areas. One is the school lunch program. As you know, our high school is not accepting those federal funds,
right,
but elementary and middle school are. And we would accept about $1.6 million in federal funds for those age ranges. And the second group is our federal projects, which are things like Title I entitled to its math. and
IDEA
reading,
fund.
IDEA for special education. Yeah, a lot of different federal programs. But that is one that's important that voters understand as they come into the ballot booth. That's why it says there's a zero tax impact on
And
that one.
conceivably, and this comes up every year,
Yes.
if it was not to be voted in the majority,
Yeah.
there would be a direct cost to taxpayers.
We
Yes.
would actually have to absorb that cost
Right.
locally. So
So
yeah,
here's an
agree with that.
opportunity, federal tax dollars at work, and we can actually get presumably our fair share.
Right,
Or a share anyway.
right.
Do you want to take, or maybe Peter, take just a moment, because some of the viewers may not be aware that the high school, withdrew from that funding and how that's
Sure.
working thus
Um,
far? And
We're into our second year where the high school withdrew from what's called the National School Lunch Program. And what that meant really was that we got off the restrictions that the National School Lunch Program put on the ability of the local districts in the form of the menu and what items can be sold for lunch. The quality didn't change. The portions got a little bigger, and the creativity of the menu was expanded and allowed to challenge to the students for different food types and everything.
you're no doubt tracking participation. Are there more students participating now than before?
You say, I'm glad you brought that up, because at the end of last year was the first time that the school lunch program made a profit in like 6 years. And it was coincidence that it was the first full year that the high school was off the national lunch program. As I told the board, 1 year doesn't make a trend.
Right.
So we'll see what this year and the following year does. But in talking to students, they saw a big difference from when the lunch program was in the national lunch program and the restrictions of menu items that could have been provided, and off the lunch program and the amount of different items that can be served. The best one I could brought up, and I think Dan remembers this, is when the new dining service manager said under the school lunch program, she couldn't serve a boiled egg. And that, everybody knows what a boiled egg is. And yet, because of the restrictions, that would not be allowed under the school lunch program. So those are the kind of things that we got off of. And then we're able to do the frozen yogurt, that's a big item. And the big salad bar that she has is a big item. Whether we move the middle school to that, let's see what happens. A couple more years with the high school being off, and let's see what happens in Congress if they relax the restrictions.
Okay, thanks.
It was also impressive in the fact that not only did it show that it actually made a little money, but she didn't install every facet of it for the entire year. There were pieces that came as the year went on.
Yes.
Look to have some better things coming in next year.
Good. Scott?
No, I think Peter's up on
I'll do Article 9, which is
Okay.
the Maintenance Trust Fund, and I think this has been an item that's been on the ballot for the school district for many years. It's a trust fund, which means it's non-lapsing. Any monies that are left over in the trust stay there. And the trust can only be expended for those items that the article or the trust is designed for. We're talking about maintenance of the buildings, maintenance of the fields, so forth and so on. It can't be used for general fund purposes. And I think that's one of the things people like, is the fact that there is a particular or a specific purpose that these funds are being used for. The article is asking for $600,000 and there's a list of items that we will put in the packet when we get to the deliberative session. And the only thing I want to mention is, in the next few years, we kind of change the formula on how we get to the article. What we're going to do is pretty much use the capital improvement plan, look at a 6-year window of what we think we're going to need for improvements for buildings and fields, take the total dollar, divide by 6, and that's the number that goes in the ballot. Now, will that eliminate the necessary of a maintenance bond that we did a few years ago? Probably never. I'll never say never, but it certainly will reduce the certainty that we'll ever need a bond for roofs or whatever again. Something will always come up in an emergency that you might need a bond for. But if you do it this way, you are looking forward at projects, and then you're adjusting your dollars looking forward. So when the $600,000 roof in Phase 2 comes up to the high school, you will have the money available.
Okay, good.
And the next article is 10, which is the Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, and this simply pulls out of the operating budget the equipment needs, mainly of the classrooms or the education buildings. And there's a list, again, in the packet deliberative session, there'll be a list of what we expect the items are, the capital items or the equipment items we expect to pay out of this fund. This fund is designed to be funded by surplus at year end. So any surplus monies at the end of June 30, 17 would go first to this article, and then the next one coming up that Scott will mention will be the sped trust fund. And the amount that we're looking for is $125,000. So the first 125 of surplus would go towards funding this equipment capital reserve article.
Okay, good. All right.
As Peter mentioned, Article 11 is also a trust fund. This one speaks specifically to any potential needs that we may have in the area of special education. As a lot of people know, the costs associated with delivering special education services can be quite high. If we have a student who moves into the district who might have some very intensive needs that we may or may not be able to meet here in our programs, in our in-district programs, we may need to contract out services. We may need to send them out to another facility that can be very expensive. And it could happen literally on a moment's notice in the middle of a school year. And it's not something we could budget for or anticipate. That's why we have a special education trust fund. And as Peter said, same situation here. We're asking for up to the sum of $50,000 to contribute to that fund. And what that would do is that would come in if we had an unanticipated expenditure like that was going to put us off budget. So again, that would come from fund balances at the end of the current year for anything that would be unencumbered.
Okay.
So.
And the final article is a special article. It's special because it's non-lapsing for a couple of years. It's an article to fund asbestos removal district-wide. And the very first thing I want to say is there is no life-threatening needs for asbestos in the district. There is no asbestos that is life-threatening or in the air. What we're doing then with the money is trying to never get to that position where asbestos becomes a health issue. And the cost of annual inspections and annual work from the business office in Chuck Zappa just increasing every year. So our goal is to finally remove small pockets remaining in the district, and just about all the buildings has some kind of asbestos, all encapsulated, as I mentioned, whether it's the floor tiles or the wrapping around the piping, HVAC, and whatever. But if we get rid of this once and for all, we don't have to worry about any abatements, we don't have to worry about the inspections, we don't have to worry about anything. In fact, we had one project, and I can't remember what it was, that we had to stop in the middle of summer because we did run into asbestos. And as you know, there were only qualified vendors that can handle this. And if you don't catch them in a long period of time, they're tied up. So this project came to a halt because we ran into an asbestos issue that required an abatement. So there's no health issue today. This article is to make sure that it never happens in the future.
Final thoughts, comments, gentlemen?
I think you know, these different articles are things that are very important to us in the district. We've tried to be very responsible as far as the general operating budget to make sure that we came in to give our voters room to hopefully approve these different warrant articles and still have a responsible budget. But I think we're feeling pretty good about where it is, and we can really make sure that we maintain the quality of our programs and services.
Good. Thanks for your time.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Londonderry, for watching. The deliberative session is Friday, February 10th, 7 p.m., high school cafeteria. Babysitting services will be provided. I think it starts at 6:30
Yes.
for the babysitters or for the children that need to be part of that at 6:30, and then the actual deliberative session will commence at 7 o'clock, and that's next Friday, the 10th, in the high school cafeteria.